What's up, y'all? Hope y'all doing good. It's story time. Let's get into a little story. So I want to tell you about what got me to want to be a writer, my first experience with it. As a kid, my dad always wanted me to be the best reader I can be. You know, he wanted me to be a better reader than he was and my mother was. He always felt reading was the most important thing you can have in life. There were many things that my dad would tell me in my life. He would have these talks with me about being biracial and how just because I'm biracial doesn't mean the world will see me as biracial. For the most part, the world will see me as one color, which is black, and they'll treat me like I'm black. And he wanted me to have an understanding of what that means and what can come with that, and the ups, the positives and the negatives of how people can treat you based on the color of your skin, and and how to deal with the police, and so many things that he would talk to me about. But one of the most important things that he wanted me to know was that reading is very important in life. It's a very important skill to have in life. So every evening, no matter what was going on, for an hour after dinner, so like around 7 o'clock, I would sit with him and he would want me to read. And when I was a very young kid, we started with Dr. Seuss books, so like Cat in the Hat, Green Eggs and Ham, One Fish, Two Fish, all that. And then eventually, as I got older, he wanted me to continue to push myself in reading. So eventually, I found Goosebumps. And as I'm reading, I started to get a little curious about what would it look like to write my own story. And I had this teacher in 5th grade. And she would give us spelling words in the beginning of the week. And then throughout the whole week, we would have to do different assignments with these spelling words. There were always 10 spelling words that we would have. And by the end of the week, we would be given a spelling test for those words to test our knowledge of those words, to make sure we knew how to spell those words. And there was one assignment that we would be to write sentences for these words. The sentences were to understand what the word meant. And I wrote 10 sentences, and these 10 sentences that I wrote, my teacher, my 5th grade teacher, liked the sentences that I wrote, and she would tell me that these are good, you should be a writer. And I didn't think of anything of that at that time. It just kind of was just like, oh, okay, thank you. I just kind of brushed it off. And then, recess came along and I went out to the field and played some kickball, Good times. But as I'm reading with my dad, the statement that my 5th grade teacher made about that I should be a writer really stuck with me, even though I didn't realize how it was sticking with me. And then after reading a chapter in a Goosebumps book, I got very curious. So I tried it, and I went into, we had in the house my parents and I were living in at the time. It was a 3-bedroom house. I had my room, my parents had their room, and then we had a spare room, which was an office, essentially. But it was also a place where to keep extra things that we didn't want to put in the garage or in a storage unit that we wanted to keep in the house just in case. There was a desk and a computer that we got that my mom's sister gave to her. So we put that. We had that, and I went in there, and I turned it on, got on Microsoft Word, and I just started to type. I just started to write something out, and eventually, what came out was it was a screenplay at the time. Because at that time as a kid, writing was, I liked the curiosity of writing, but when I was a kid, I would watch the Oscars, and one of my favorite things that would come up is Best Screenplay Writer. So I would pay attention to the screenplay writer part, not for the person who won, but because excuse me, but because they would always read and show a sample of the screenplay. So I would be able to see how it looked and thought how cool that was. And then seeing like, and then being able to see all these different people who would win screenplay. I thought that is so cool. I would love to do that. So the first thing I wrote was called The Superheroes. And it was written in a way like a screenplay. Not like I knew how to write a screenplay. I just, I did my best with it. But it was the first original thing that I wrote. It was this story about these kids who live in this small town, and a spaceship ship from outer space comes down, and outside the spaceship, out of the spaceship comes a cat, and this cat has the collar on them, and from the collar gives these kids these powers, these superhero powers to protect this town. And the kids use their powers to protect their small town from evil, from the bad guys. And that was my first story as a kid. And then and that was it. And I was so proud of myself that I loved how I was able to do that. I'm like, oh, I can do this. This is fun. And the more that I did it, the more challenging the more I pushed myself and the more challenging it got. But I love that. And like the first love story I ever wrote was, I was a freshman in high school when I wrote my first love story. And it was called God Must Have Spent a Little More Time on You. If the title is familiar, it's because it comes from the song by NSYNC on their debut album, which is their self-titled album called NSYNC. And they have a song on there called God Must Have Spent a Little More Time on You. I know I just did the hand thing. But yeah, I heard that song and I was like, I just heard the song and I thought, for one thing, I was a fan of NSYNC. Still am. But I liked the name of that song, so that when I wrote this love story, it became that was the title that I ended up using for it. And I went on from there. I just kept writing, and eventually I had a very large speed bump because I had this girlfriend who I was falling in love with. I mean, we were high school sweethearts. I was falling in love with her, and I was blind to what she was doing. There were things that she didn't like about me that she didn't want me to do anymore. Like, she didn't like that I watched pro wrestling, and she didn't like that I wrote. And one of the things that she would say is that being a writer gets you nowhere in life. Writing is a waste of time. And I listened to that and I stopped writing. And I kind of fell into retail. I was a checker, working for grocery stores and all that stuff. But writing was always kind of in the back of my mind. And in 2004, I found myself getting back into it. And that's where I ended up writing a story. I began to write a story that eventually I call In the Dark, the Sun Will Rise. And I slowly started to work on that. And then after I caught my now ex-fiance at that time in 2005, when I caught her cheating on me and going through the motions of being cheated on and heartbroken and all that stuff, I eventually just got back into writing, and I just kind of stayed there, and I just fell deeper and deeper and more in love with this thing that is who I am. And through writing, I was able to really find the person of who I am. I was really able to discover this part of me who I first found when I was just a kid. And I slowly started to find my way back. I started taking all these somewhat screenplays that I've written and started to turn them into books. And they are now all these books and more. I have now having 16 books altogether that I've written over the course of time and over the course and under 2 years. It's just, I just have fully found myself. I'm like, I feel like I feel like I took the detour to get there, but I feel like I'm finally finding myself back in my own body of who I am, and who I am is a writer, is an author, is a novelist. And I love it. I love doing that. I love being able to create these worlds and then sharing them with all of you. The eventual goal is to take what is called take what this channel is called, which is AKT Publishing, and turn it into an actual publishing company. Being able to have writers who have been in the game for a long time or just getting started, being able to come to my company, give me everything that they've written, as far as giving me the full story, not just like half the story or synopsis of the story. No, give me the full thing. Give me your full story, or however much you have written, and with the people that I have working for me, we go through your story. We tell you what we think. We're 100% honest. What we think, what we can do with this, what we can do with it, as far as advertising and pushing it and getting you on tour, and go from there. And if you like it, great. If you don't, that is fine. Take your story. Best of luck to you. But if you like it, then we do it. We push it out there as best we can, and we take a very, very small percentage of what you make from your book, and we give you everything else. So the writer, the writer would get the majority of the money that they make from their own book. And then also being able to not only have a publishing company, but being able to have a factory that actually makes the books themselves. So there's a bigger vision, a bigger goal into just the channel being called AKT Publishing, but to have it being a physical place where people can get their books published, a physical place where people who want to help people with their writing can come and work, and being paid well, and working hours where they don't feel like they're being drained, and love what they do, and making, especially for those who have children, making childcare very easy, making healthcare very affordable for them, and all that other stuff as well. But as far as how I became a writer, that's how I became a writer, and that's how I fell in love with it. And that's why to this day I still do it, and why I will always do it, and why I continue to say, as an independent writer, that I may be 80 years old still trying to make it, but I'm going to keep going because I love this. And it's important, no matter what's happening in the world, no matter how hard things are in the world, because life is hard, struggles are always going to be a thing. Try to do the thing you love if possible, and to take a risk, as I am, and to bet on myself. No regrets. So I'm going to keep doing this. But for now, I'm Anthony K. Thomas. Thank you for taking a few moments to listen to me talk about the thing that I love to do, and how I found the thing that I love to do. But take care of yourselves, and see you on the next one. Peace, y'all.